So the main reason I feel like Chloe Bailey's music strategy didn't go as well as it could have or should have is because when she was trying to do this good girl gone bad-esque, like, departure from Chloe and Halle as the group, I think it didn't work the same way it worked for like Rihanna, because of the fact that Rihanna was going from polar opposites, from like innocent girl next door to almost fully realized sex symbol, if that makes sense. Versus when Chloe and Halle were together, we could already see the personalities of Chloe and Halle separately. So we already knew that it looked as though Chloe was dying to kind of be more mature or adult in the musical content that she was making. And so when there's already an anticipation for you to depart and have your solo career where you're going to be going like balls to the wall with like sexual music or mature music or maturing the type of music you're making, it has to fully hit, because now there's an expectation. Whether that expectation is right or wrong, I'm not talking about my personal expectation, I'm talking about the expectation of the market. I feel like what we actually got was kind of half-hearted, especially because of how talented Chloe is. And I don't fully think that's Chloe's fault. I think as a musician, there is a pressure to make a viral hit. So something like Have Mercy, it's one of those things where it was like she maybe won the battle and not the war, because she got herself a viral hit moment, but it kind of was like cheap and tacky compared to the music that Chloe and Halle as a group have put out together. And also I feel like when you're giving like sexy R&B, like it just felt like, and I feel like I'm gonna sound such a hater, but it just felt like shade room music. Like it didn't feel like I wasn't getting Janet or Anita Baker, or like there's so many sultry R&B like references you could pull from. I think that's the reason why Summer Walker does sexy music so well, because she's a student of R&B. Like when she's going into her like her pockets, like she's very sure of the type of music she's making. It felt like Chloe was trying on a lot of aesthetics. Like I think about again like Beyonce's departure from Destiny's Child. She was so sure she was going to make music so different to what they'd been making together that there was no doubt in anyone's mind that she should have been going like mainstream by herself, if that makes sense, or going independent. And I just think that there's not that same like decisiveness in Chloe's music. I feel like there were so many like marketing just mishaps, like the collab with Chris Brown. I know at the time there wasn't as much discourse, but like all these things do play into how the public sees you. Like, but I think she's such a talented producer and such a great vocalist. She has the ingredients, and I think it is also like maybe she feels the need to prove herself, or maybe like, you know, sometimes what you want to make and what you should make are two different things, and a lot of artists understand that, I believe, or at least like have an alignment between the music they enjoy making and the music that they find fun making and the music that the audience needs to hear from them and they need to provide to the general public, if that makes sense. So I feel like I've said a whole lot of nothing, but in short, I think someone like Chloe, who already had an anticipation around her becoming a sexual being, didn't fully commit in her music, I don't think, at least in a way that was listenable, palatable, and interesting to the general public. I don't think she gave like sultry R&B. Like it was very much modern trap pop R&B-esque, like, I don't know, Empire music, I feel. It didn't feel as rich as a sound as the music that Chloe and Halle made together. And on top of that, yeah, I do think that like her sexual branding in terms of like how she was marketed on social media and stuff was very, very sexual. But then I just don't think like her music didn't live up to that. Like I wasn't being convinced in the music. I feel like you can be a Shensia or a Spice or like a really sexual person, but you have to find a way to own that and make it make sense for your brand. Or even Ari Lennox, who doesn't necessarily post like sexual stuff, but the music, it just feels convincing. Like I don't listen to a lot of Chloe's music and think like, oh, I feel sexy. You know what I mean? I feel like you are talking about sex, but you're not bringing it. So I don't think it's necessarily that the branding is bad because it's sexy. I think the branding was wrong because it didn't fit the music, and the music wasn't the quality that we know and we see Chloe can deliver. Because even on like some covers that Chloe does, she eats up more on the covers than she does in some of her own music, which I don't think is like, I think that's very normal for artists to do. Like, think about, feature Nicki versus sometimes, especially like Pink Friday 2 album Nicki. Like, she can eat so much more in a feature than she does because you put so much, and Nicki said it herself, you put so much pressure on your own music than you do when you're just putting a feature on for another artist. I know there's lots of thoughts and lots of ramblings, but I love and adore Chloe. I still think that she's and she's done so much, even with all of these issues. Like, she's had many viral moments, and I think she'll continue to. But in terms of the longevity and replay factor of her music, I think it just needs to be a bit richer. And she definitely, it's like, she reminds me a bit of Lizzo, where Lizzo has such a great understanding and knowledge of music. I just feel like the music she puts out, more often than not, isn't up to the standard that she herself should be at, if that makes sense. And that's not saying that artists shouldn't enjoy the music they put out. I'm just saying that is the reason I think it doesn't always land the way that it's supposed to.
And I think with Chloe as well, she moved on from Chloe and Hailey too quickly. Let me explain why. When the pandemic, I feel like the pandemic happened and Chloe and Hailey moved on from each other, not by choice, but by events. They had to do things separately. Chloe moved into music and finding her own identity and finding her space in music, and Hailey went into movies and doing her own projects and being her own independent person in her own right. And I think they both struggled so much because they never really had that strong foundation. Beyonce had I know it's wrong to kind of compare the two, but Beyonce had a strong foundation from being in a group for so long, and it took a decade, if not years of proper. In fact, it was a decade before she went into her full era as Beyonce, the solo artist. Before she could move away from the group and do her own thing. Kaylee as well, Michelle as well, finding their own identity as individuals, as a person, and finding their own person too. Before we can just anything, Beyonce was in a group for so long, and Chloe did not have that rhythm to fully explore Chloe and Hailey together as a group before she went into being Chloe herself. And I think she was going through a discovering phase when she was in that era. So interesting, hey? But yeah, it is what it is. It happens. It sucks. It's life.